Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has given his first major interview to American journalist Tucker Carlson. Yes, who would have predicted this scenario? That the Iranian president's first major interview after the US and Israeli aggression against the Islamic Republic would be conducted by someone who is known for his support for Donald Trump. The interview lasted 28 minutes, and Pezeshkian clearly nailed the opportunity. There were several standout moments for me in this interview, but the biggest takeaway for me as a journalist was his confirmation on Trump backstabbing Iran on his nuclear program. Tucker had released a short video message yesterday when he informed his followers about this upcoming interview. Realizing that this would cause a backlash, Tucker had explained the circumstances under which he had to conduct this interview.
We just finished up an interview with Masoud Pezeshkian, who is the president of Iran, the 70-year-old heart surgeon who leads the country we were just at war with about a week and a half ago. We know we'll be criticized for doing this interview. Why did we do it anyway? Well, we did it because we were just at war with Iran 10 days ago and maybe again. And so our view, which has remained consistent over time, is that American citizens have the constitutional right and the God-given right to all the information they can gather about matters that affect them. If their country is doing something with their money in their name, they have a right, an absolute right, to know as much about it as they can. And that would include hearing from the people they're fighting. Now, can you believe everything you hear from the president of Iran? Probably not. But that's not the point. The point is you should be able to decide for yourself whether you believe it or not. And keep in mind that anyone who seeks to deny you that right is not your ally, but your enemy. By the way, we have also put in for the third time in the last several months an interview request with the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and we hope he accepts that. The interview is limited by a couple of factors. One, it was done by remote through a translator. That's always awkward. For another, I don't speak Persian, and there are all kinds of questions that I didn't ask the president of Iran, particularly questions to which I knew I could not get an honest answer, such as, was your nuclear program totally disabled by the bombing campaign by the U.S. government a week and a half ago? There's no chance he's going to answer that question honestly. I didn't bother to ask it. The answer, in fact, from an American perspective, even from the CIA's perspective, is unknowable. So we dispense with those, and I asked him very simple questions, such as, what is your goal? Do you seek war with the United States? Do you seek war with Israel? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Again, the purpose of this was not to get to the absolute truth. That's impossible in an interview like this. The purpose of the interview was to add to the corpus of knowledge from which Americans can derive their own opinion. Learn everything you can, and then you decide. That's the promise of America.
Once the interview was out, it was clear that Tucker had conducted himself with immense professionalism, something you wouldn't expect from individuals like Piers Morgan or people of his ilk. He asked all the difficult questions, but allowed his guest to explain his position patiently. For example, this question by Tucker on Iran cutting off ties with the International Atomic Energy Agency and banning the entry of its disgraced chief, Rafael Grossi. The Iranian president calmly explained the chronology of every single event before war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu decided to illegally attack Iran. Pezeshkian minced no words when he said how Trump had backstabbed Iran. I'm going to play that clip in a bit. What the Iranian president here is effectively saying is that the US promised to restrain its mad dog called Benjamin Netanyahu while it was engaging with Iran for talks on its nuclear program, but Netanyahu chose to attack Iran nonetheless, destroying not just the ongoing negotiations, but also killing any future prospects of similar talks. This, according to him, was a betrayal of epic proportions.
Mr. Carlson, sir, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that we were right in the middle of holding talks with the United States. And the President of the United States invited us to hold such talks in order to have peace. And we were told during the process of these negotiations and talks that as long as we don't give the permission to Israel, they are not going to attack you. And we were going to have the next round of the talks very soon. But in the middle of it, suddenly Israel torpedoed the negotiating table. We were sitting at the negotiating table when it happened. And by doing this, they totally ruined and destroyed diplomacy. And in order to answer your question with regards to the surveillance or the supervision over our nuclear program, I would like to say that we are ready to hold talks over it. We have never been the party that has run away from verification. We stand ready to have these supervisions, but unfortunately, as a result of the United States unlawful attacks against our nuclear centers and installations, many of the pieces of equipment and the facilities there have been severely damaged. Therefore, we don't have any access to them. We cannot see, and unless this access is going to be back there again, we have to wait for it and to see what happens and how much they have been damaged so that we can go for the supervision.
I suggest you watch the whole interview. I think it was a masterstroke by the Iranian president to choose a pro-Trump journalist who has a massive appeal amongst the conservative American voters, who are anyway beginning to get disenchanted with Trump's support for an illegal war against Iran in support of Israel. I had told you in one of my earlier videos about Marjorie Taylor Greene and many other prominent Republican voices opposing the US support for Israel. The content of this interview will further cause unrest amongst those supporting Trump. Not just the Iranian president. The overwhelming sentiment amongst Iranians is that Iran mustn't return to negotiations, particularly when the country was betrayed by the US. How can you trust Trump once again? This was an Iranian expert on Press TV this morning.
I would like to buy the Trump story because that gives Iran another card in its hand. Because if they are claiming that they have totally destroyed the nuclear, let's say, program in Iran, so what's the need of inspections anymore? So this is another card in the hand of the Iranians. And they have already suspended the expansions from the EAIE,
Atomic Energy Agency.
So this is a double-edged, let's say, knife that they could hurt themselves in that.
Trump did not only ask for inspection; he asked for a reliable agency to be able to inspect. So he is insisting on the fact that inspections should be taking place.
Well, if the program has been destroyed, so what's the need? What's the point of inspections? So and let's say that the agency was spending 65% of its budget on Iran's inspections. And after all, the news leaked out that they were just handling over all informations about
why there is a deliberate exaggeration.
Pezeshkian also made it abundantly clear that Iranians weren't scared of death, realizing that Tucker was a practicing Christian himself. Pezeshkian kept quoting religious scriptures and that how God Almighty had chosen the timing of everyone's death, adding that this was the belief that made every single Iranian fearless. This also appeared to be a message to Netanyahu and Trump that their future military adventurism would be met with an even harsher response. Experts of human behavior would tell you that it's very difficult to deal with your enemy who doesn't fear death. Perhaps this is the message he was trying to convey through this interview. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism on buymeacoffee.com and Patreon. If you do think that our journalism is worth supporting, then you too should consider becoming part of it. Details are there in the description of this video. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.